Hi, Lonnie Mackley here. I just want to talk to you a little bit today about addiction and an inability to be responsible. It's just a common trait among people with an addiction problem, and most of the time we just attribute it to the fact that they have an addiction, but there's actually, deeper roots there that are fueling this problem, and the addiction sometimes is just a symptom of the problem. It's not always the reason that addicts have such a tough time with things like this. And people with this problem, this inability to carry responsibility, a lot of times they're people that have a very difficult time. You'll start seeing it when they're younger. They miss a lot of school. They have a hard time with school. They have a hard time showing up or keeping a job. They have a difficult time carrying any kind of responsibility for any length of time. Being a parent, being a spouse, anything that obligates them is very difficult for people with this kind of a problem. And there's, like I said, there's reasons for it, and I want to just help you to understand what's going on. You may have felt very bad or mad if you're the other person that has to be around it, but there's reasons for it, and a lot of the reason for this is because of it's a root of fear that starts when they're young. It's actually a combination of things. It's like an airplane accident. It's a combination of things. It's a root of fear that starts when they're young. It's a lie of unprotection. In other words, things happened to them when they were a child that made them believe a lie that the only one that can protect them is them, and that the world is very threatening, and the best thing they can do is to stay away from the world. Stay away from the world's control because they see it as a threat. They see any kind of responsibility as a threat and a depletion. The two things that they fear the most is harm without being protected, and depletion, because they think that the things that they accumulate are kind of a defense for them. The pleasure things that they create, and staying alone. They're loners a lot of the time, and so they live kind of a hermit-like life, and this is why, because they believed a lie of unprotection. They weren't protected. God couldn't protect them. Maybe they went through a divorce. Maybe they were abused. Just trauma that happened when they were young. Maybe it's a sense of shame. Maybe your family was very poor. Maybe something happened with your family that you're very ashamed of, that made you feel like you couldn't face life, and that life was very threatening for you. And so that's how it starts. And also a chemical imbalance. You may have, a chemical imbalance that puts you in a state of agitation, kind of the fight or flight thing all the time, where what would be normal for some people, for you might find overwhelming. You may be very spiritually sensitive. This makes things very overwhelming. You can't just, shut it off or turn the volume down. It just makes things very difficult and overwhelming for you. And so there's just a lot of factors involved. And, if you feel like you're ready to jump out of your skin half the time, it's a good indicate, especially around a lot of people or at your work or school or whatever, it's a good indication that you may have a problem with this. And also a spirit of fear plays on this problem, and it actually magnifies it. That's what an evil spirit does. All it does is intensify and magnify and amplify a problem that's already there. So that's what a spirit of fear does, and it feeds off of the problem like a leech. Now, like I said, some of the symptoms of this inability to carry responsibility are missed school, missed work, agoraphobia. Maybe you feel like you can't leave your house, and you don't understand why. Being a loner, inability to parent, escaping through addiction is a big one, because once somebody has a drink or has some kind of an addiction, they're able to kind of numb that fear, numb that anxiety, and so they want to keep doing that. They don't want to have to experience that discomfort all the time. Or even if it's a chemical imbalance, they may be using a chemical to balance themselves out, not realizing that it's going to lead to a destructive addiction. A lot of major marital strife. If you have one of these problems, it can make it very difficult for you. Like I said, difficult to be a spouse or a parent, or to carry a job, which creates a lot of marital strife, which actually just adds to their sense of life is not safe, and people are not safe. and it just a lot of it ends up leading to an inability to maintain healthy relationships because there's always some problem. It makes people like this very oversensitive, intolerant, critical, and it leads to a lot of divorces. And this person can end up, like I said, just becoming a hermit, especially around the end of their life, where they just kind of sit in their house and their friend is their TV or their computer, and that's about as far as it goes. But that's not God's best for your life. God has better things for you, and God can help you to overcome this if you'll allow Him to. One of the things that God can help you to do, first of all, you need to face the root lies about being unprotected. Yes, things happened when you were younger that harmed you. It happens to everybody. But the problem is, if you have a chemical imbalance, to you it's like taking that pain and that trauma and multiplying it, times 10. It just seems much bigger than what it really was, even though it traumatized you. And so you have to put it in perspective that this happens to everybody. It's not God's will. God gave people free will. They choose evil. The evil hurts other people. But God is there to be able to heal you, to be able to protect you if you ask Him to come into your life and to do that. He's not going to force Himself into your life. So He waits for people to make that decision for themselves and ask them into life so that He can protect you, so that He can provide for you, so that you don't feel like you have to be your own God, your own everything. And another thing is to treat your chemical imbalance. Be aware of it if you have one. Ask God to heal you. Do what you need to keep things, to avoid overload. Don't overload yourself trying to control everything and do everything for everybody, because you're actually going to aggravate a chemical imbalance if it's already there. Let people carry their own loads. You carry yours. Keep things as easy as you can. When you're around people socially, don't feel that you have to control everything. Let life control itself. Trust God to control life. And you just allow Jesus to give you the load that you're supposed to have, which should be light and easy according to Jesus. And if it's not light and easy, the chances are you're taking on more of a load that's actually yours from Jesus. So ask Jesus to change things around in your life and to only give you the load that you're supposed to be carrying and no more. And undergo inner healing and deliverance. That means just sitting down with somebody that can counsel you, can walk you through healing with God, and also deliverance. You might need to get rid of some of the evil spirits that have attached themselves to your life because of this problem. And you need to be able to forgive people from the past that have hurt you. The monsters in the closet, you need to forgive. Let these people go, especially your parents or whoever harmed you, so that you don't have to carry them around anymore and be afraid of being harmed again. You need to forgive. And just accept and trust in God's love for you. God will protect you. He even allowed His Son Jesus to go through some traumatic times in His life, but every time that it came to a certain point, God would step in and make sure that things didn't go over the edge, so to speak. And that's what He'll do with you. He'll let you go through life, and He knows the end from the beginning, so you don't have to worry about that. There's no big surprises. God doesn't fall off His throne every time something happens in your life. He's already seen your life completely lived and the choices that you'll make, and He wants you still have a free will, but He wants you to choose to invite Him into every day to help you to be responsible. Ask God to help you to be responsible with your work, with your marriage, with your parenting, with all of these things, and trust Him if you have to go out and be social. Basically, you're just letting God be what you feel that you didn't have when you were growing up, and He will show Himself to you that He's very real, and what used to be a terrible problem will now become a great testimony of what God can do to help somebody with this kind of fear of responsibility. And so trust God, and may the Lord bless you. I know that He has good things for you, so I hope this has helped you a little bit. There's a group called Spirit-Led Recovery from Addiction. If you type Lonnie Mackley in the internet, you'll find it. Bye-bye.